Good morning. This is Caitlin at the Creation Museum, and we are out in the petting zoo today with the zoo supervisor, Leanne and Scotty, looking at some new animals that we're excited to share with you today. So who are we with right now?
This is Lilly. She is an African pygmy hedgehog.
She sure is cute.
So you can see she has lots of spines on her back. Mm-hmm. They are in no way related to a porcupine. That's one of the biggest questions we get is it a mini porcupine? No, not a porcupine. You can tell, this is Tulip. You can tell them apart if you look really close. Tulip has this like crown of white spines across her head, and Lilly's are mostly brown. Also, Tulip has really big bug eyes. That was one of the first things we noticed about her.
How old are these guys? Or girls, I guess I should say.
So these girls were born beginning of March, so they're still babies, so they're still doing some growing. They'll get a little bit bigger yet. They're probably just about full grown now at this point. So we actually got these two Easter weekend. We actually got them on Good Friday. That's when we got to go and pick them up. So when our zookeepers were voting on names, we kind of decided to go with some spring Easter flowers. So Tulip and Lilly just seem to be good names, and they're really perfect fits for these guys. So these girls are part of our group of animals that we use for animal encounters. So these guys we actually take inside the museum. Usually once or twice a day these girls will be out around, so they'll be out here in the zoo doing an encounter out in the gardens, on the trails, or they'll be inside. So we're trying every day at 10:30. We have an animal down in Palm Plaza, which is in the lower level of the museum. And we have some of these guys out. So some of these guys you can hold, you can pet, just kind of depends on who we have out. You can get your pictures taken with them and learn some really cool, interesting facts about them as well, and some of the cool designs that God has given these animals. So a really cool thing about the hedgehogs, most people know that they have these spines. Spines are different than quills. So quills are not embedded deeply in the skin and are different lengths, whereas the spines are basically, if you look really close here, you can see they're about all the same length, and these are embedded pretty deeply in the skin, so I can't really pull her spines out. So when a hedgehog feels frightened, they will actually stick all of their spines up, and they look like a big pincushion almost when they're kind of scared. And then they have a muscle that runs from their head down their back. They can actually curl up in a ball, and that gives their bellies. So if we look at their bellies, you notice their bellies just have hair on them, so they'll curl up in a ball to protect their bellies as well. Hedgehogs also can fall off of out of trees, that sort of thing, and be just fine as long as they're curled up in that ball, because these spines actually have a core inside that makes them almost bounce. So the spines won't collapse on each other. They'll just kind of bounce. So if they fall out of a tree, they're perfectly fine. Now we're not, of course, going to test that here, but in theory, they can. So hedgehogs, will put them down so they can kind of run around, kind of watch them explore a little bit. Ignore all the poop. So these guys do poop quite a bit. So us zookeepers, we're used to it. It's just par with the course. But these guys are nocturnal, so they're going to be active at night. So during the day, they have a nice little house they sleep in, and then we usually wake them up about 10 to 15 minutes before their animal encounter, because they're a little bit grumpy when they first wake up, of course, just like we are. So we'll wake them up, let them wake up, and then we take them out. Typically, we'll have these guys out for about half an hour, not usually too much more than half an hour, and then they get to go back to sleep. So these guys, as I said, are nocturnal. They're also insectivores, so that means they eat insects. So in the wild, people love them in their gardens. So in Europe, they're really valuable in the gardens because they help control the insects in the gardens. So here, their favorite insect so far is mealworms, so we give them some dried mealworms. They're still learning and figuring out kind of what's good to eat and what they like, what they don't like. We're still figuring that out. Just kind of like with little kids, you have to make them try new things, and sometimes they don't just decide, no, we don't like that. So this little swimming pool here is how we have them out, a lot of times out here in the zoo. So it's great because kids can watch them move around, can watch them be hedgehogs, but can also reach in and touch them. So we've been working with them basically since we got them at 6 weeks old. We've been working with them so that when you touch them, they don't spine out. So not all hedgehogs are going to let you pet them down their backs like these girls do. This has just been a lot of what we call desensitization that we've done with them. So that just means we basically keep petting them until they decide, okay, this isn't so bad. So far these guys are really, really popular here. People love them. Kids love holding them, petting them, interacting with them. They just think they're really, 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 really fun, cool little animals. And they're definitely little characters. They're quite fun. So you may see these guys, as I said, either inside the museum, out on the trails, or out here in the zoo. Typically we have them out in the mornings and early afternoon because we do have to watch temperature with these guys. So they really like it between 70 and 80 degrees. So if it gets above that, they need to stay in the nice air-conditioned office and stay nice and cool. So yes, this is Tulip and Lily.
For our viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments, and we can ask Leanne and Scotty and get you some answers.
Yeah, we would love to answer all of your questions about these girls. So these girls, another fun fact about these guys is they do get a bath, usually about every 2 weeks, more often if they get dirty. But because they have these lovely spines, they're kind of hard to wash. So what you do is you use a toothbrush. So you put your shampoo on a toothbrush and you basically brush their spines with a toothbrush to get them nice and clean. So that's a really fun job. I enjoy giving them baths. Lily loves water. She really loves being in the bath. When she's getting her bath, she'll be running around in the water. Tulip kind of just goes into grumpy mode and is like, I do not like this. Get me out of here now.
How old are they?
They were born beginning of March. So they are, let's see, they're almost 3 months old now.
And you said this is about as big as they'll get?
Yes. So the African pygmy hedgehog, so these guys are bred a lot as pets here in the States. So they can be this size, they can be smaller than this. Some of the fat ones can get up to the size of a small guinea pig, but that's a little too fat. So with these guys, we have to be really careful about their diet, how much we're feeding them, so that they don't put on too much weight. And also these two at night, they have a wheel that they run on overnight, so that's a really great way for them to exercise as well. And as you can see, they're quite little.
They're very active.
They're quite little active right now, so which is really good.
What is their lifespan? Someone asked.
In captivity, it can be anywhere from 6 to 10 years. So it just kind of depends on your hedgehog and the amount of care. The better the care, generally the longer your animal's going to live in captivity. So there are 15 species of hedgehog. They're found in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And they are members of their own kind or family. Some scientists think moon rats, which are found in Southeast Asia, may also be in that kind as well. So, but they have their own kind. They're saying, "Get us out of here."
Are they playful at all? Do they like to play?
They do. I'm still trying to figure out what toys they like, but they will. Sometimes we'll put little balls and things in here, and they will push them and root them around with their noses. One of their probably their favorite thing to do though is burrowing. So during the day, what these guys will do in gardens is they'll burrow down in the soil. And there we have Lily. Lily is escaping. We need to get a deeper pool. So in their tank that they have, we put down several inches of paper bedding for them, and they like to burrow down in that and make a nest down in that. So sometimes you'll just see them kind of digging and going, you just see this hole going through their bedding. So that's one of their favorite activities is to dig. But that is a very natural behavior. That's how they protect themselves and keep themselves cool during the day.
Someone asked if they are twins.
They're not twins, they are sisters. They came from a litter of 7, so they did have some other brothers and sisters as well. So they actually came from right down the road in Petersburg, Kentucky. So these are Kentucky hedgehogs.
Lily, how large do their families get in nature?
Typically these guys are going to be mostly solitary animals, except when the mom has babies, and then she will of course take care of her babies until they're big enough to take care of themselves, but they don't live in large family groups. So males and females will kind of we'll meet up, and then we'll kind of disperse as well. So
how many babies do they have at a time?
They can have anywhere from 5 to 9 babies, so or less.
Great questions. Keep those coming.
Great. Well, if we don't have...
Someone asked how many kinds there are. They might have missed that before.
there are 15 species of, there are about 15 species of hedgehog found in the world today.
And you mentioned the burrowing, but they're not related to moles.
No, not related to moles. This is that these guys are members of their own kind, so we could call it the hedgehog kind. It's got a fancier name, but I'm not going to try to say it on the air. But they are members of their own kind, so they're not related to, they may be related to the moon rat, which if you want to look up the moon rat, they're really interesting looking animals. They're just found in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
But we're not quite sure. They may or may not be related in the same kind as the moon rat. So. Very fun little animals. If you notice their little noses, you can see them sniffing and looking around. That's because they do eat insects. They have a very good sense of smell and a very good sense of hearing. They do not have good eyesight though, because once again they're nocturnal, so they don't really need a good sense of eyesight because they're going to be active at night. So they're going to use their nose and their ears a lot. If we don't have any more questions about our hedgehogs, we're going to move on to our other new babies then.
Any more questions about the hedgehogs, anyone? Thank you, Leanne.
Oh, you're welcome. I could sit here and watch these guys all day.
They're very cute.
Okay. So in here we have our newest goats. So with all of our increased crowds this year, we have had a need for some more goats. So last year we introduced our Pygmy Goats, Peter, Edmund, and Tumnus. They're a huge hit, but they're kind of getting to be basketballs in the middle when they were in here all day with kids getting fed and loved on. So this spring I started looking for some new baby goats to add. So in keeping with the Narnia theme, we have some more Narnia names in here. So Peyton here has Shasta, so he's named after Shasta from Horst and His Boy. He is a mini Nubian goat. And then his sister Susan is the little one over there at our hay feeder. So these guys are twins. They came to us from a farm in Indiana. So mini Nubians, they'll be about 70 to 90 pounds when they're full grown. So these two were born April 10th. So they'll be 2 months old here at the beginning of June. Something really cool about these guys, if you look closely at them, they actually have blue eyes. So they've got a gene that gives them these pretty blue eyes. Oh yeah, Susan will come over and say hi.
Aww.
Susan loves people. She is basically a puppy dog. These two will both follow us around. A lot of people compare mini Nubians and full-size Nubians to dogs, just because they're very affectionate, very loving little goats.
Aww.
Really fun breed. They're a dairy breed. So at some point we may have some. When Susan gets a little bit older, she may have babies. We'll see.
That would be fun.
Yes, have some more baby goats around here, because baby goats are just the best things in the world. And then over there, our two little boys kind of sunning themselves over there are Caspian and Eustace. So those are mini La Manchas over there.
Okay.
So we can walk.
Which we also have at Ark Encounter,
Yes,
right?
we have mini La Manchas at Ark Encounter. Actually, Caspian and Eustace are actually related to Malchus. He's kind of a star over there in the petting zoo over there. These two also came from, down in southern Kentucky, came from the same farm that we got Malchus from. So we'll see if they get up. Eustace, come here. Eustace is our little acrobat. Thankfully, he's getting a little too big to do it now. But when he was littler, if we were like sitting in the barn with him, he would jump up and balance on our shoulders, which is really cute. Except goat hooves start hurting your shoulders after a while, and he wasn't always gentle with his jumping techniques either. So the one cool thing about La Manchas in general is they don't have external ear flaps, or don't have a whole lot of external ear flaps. So Eustace here has got what we call goblin ears, so he basically has no ears. Caspian has what we call elf ears, so if he makes his way over here, we'll see he's got these little teeny tiny ears. We get asked at Ark and here, did you chop their ears off? No, we did not chop their ears off. This breed was actually developed in on the West Coast from some breeds brought over from Spain of a really short-eared goat, and so just over time they started selecting for smaller and smaller ears, and so now we have goats that basically have no external ear flaps. So it's a good example of how artificial selection can select for a recessive trait like the small ears. Okay, Shasta, we do not do that. We do not do that. No. We don't do that. Yeah.
There's so many people and no one's
So these guys right now aren't on exhibit all the time. So what we're doing...
Goat time out.
So every morning they're usually out from about 9:30 to 10:30 in the mornings for guests to see. We aren't letting people in the yards with them yet, just because they're still babies, so they're still learning. But people can reach through the fence and pet them. We're also asking guests not to feed them quite yet because these guys are still on their bottle, so we don't want to mess up their tummies too much. But come out and pet them and say hi to them. Hi, Shasta.
How old are they, did you say?
So our mini Nubians, Shasta and Susan, were born April 10th. Eustace here was born April 1st. Caspian's our oldest one. He was born February 7th.
Okay.
So Caspian is starting to come out on exhibit with our Pygmy Goats.
Okay.
So he'll be out here for short periods of time. So you can come in and pet him when he is out with our other goats. So yeah.
Let us know if you have any questions about these guys.
Also, during the day, you might also see these guys out going for walks in the trails. So not only is that good for them to learn how to walk on leashes and get out of the yards, explore new things, it's great for our guests too because it's kind of a fun experience to see some goats just walking down the trails. So this summer, since we're expecting very large crowds, we're trying to draw some more people outside. He's just in trouble today. We are going to be doing animal encounters, both in the museum, in the gardens, and out here in the zoo. So for some of those, it's a chance to hold or pet, get your picture taken with the animals. Animal encounters here in the zoo. So we do camel encounters at 1 and 3 every day. So that's a chance for you to get to feed the camels because the camels aren't allowed to eat the petting zoo feed we have here for everybody else. So it's a chance for you to feed the camels, learn some more about the camels, ask questions, get your picture taken, all those good things. So the same goes with our zebroids. We do this as well, where you get a chance to help almost participate in a training session with our zebroids as well. And then we're also advertising different times when we're doing either training sessions with our animals, so you can come out and kind of observe us doing some training with our animals, or painting sessions where we do some animal artwork with them, and even our enrichment sessions, so times when we put enrichment out for our animals. Observing some of that as well. So this summer we're looking forward to having a lot of fun new things for people to participate in and watch, and our animals out here are always a huge hit, so we're just trying to find more and more ways to highlight them and give our guests a great experience while they're visiting the zoo.
So what are their genders again?
So Shasta is a male, Susan is a female, and then Caspian and Eustace are both males.
How old are they and do they bite?
Well, I will say any animal with a mouth can bite. Now these guys are babies right now, so he really wants that cord. So right now these guys are they're a little bit more what we call mouthy. So they're getting a bottle 2 or 3 times a day, depending on which goat it is. So they're going to be a little bit more mouthy than maybe our older goats are going to be. So we always ask guests not to stick fingers in these guys' mouths because they will suck on your finger. But all goats do have molars on their back jaw, and it is not fun to get your fingers pinched in them. So these guys will not bite out of any ill intent, but any animal with a mouth can bite.
Did you get any lambs?
No time soon. Anyway, we have 2 Katahdin hair sheep, and then we have a Shetland and a Jacob sheep. So we're kind of at our sheep max right now. They require a little bit more delicate of a care than the goats do. So.
Just rocking our goats.
So you can see these 2 are really they're like, yeah, whatever. We're really relaxed. Nothing much bothers us.
Seems like is it La Mancha or La Mancha?
La Mancha.
That they're a little bit more chill.
Yes. Now, normally, if it was just us in here, Eustace would be over here all over us. I think since we've got some more people in here, he's kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to kind of hang out over here. Caspian is definitely probably our shyest, so we're working with him to get him a little bit more friendly, get him used to being out around people. He's doing great, though.
Yeah.
So we have some brushes. We have some brushes for kids to brush them in here in the petting yard. So he's actually doing really well. I was kind of concerned he would be a little bit not okay with the brushes, but he's actually doing really well with getting brushed. So yes, these 2 tend to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say shy, but they kind of go and do their own thing, where the mini Nubians is, if there's people in here, they're they're pretty much up here saying, hello, can you give us some attention? Or trying to eat things. Because they are goats. Goats love to nibble. They like to test everything with their mouths, basically. Kind of like toddlers.
That's what I was just going to say. Little kids.
Yes, just like little kids. Yes.
Susan likes him.
Yes.
If you have any questions about the goats, feel free to send those in the comments. So you said they're not ready yet, these two, to interact with people. Do you have a time frame or know about when they will?
Typically, when I get them down to about 1 bottle a day is kind of when we'll start letting people come in with them. So these guys are still on 3 bottles a day. So it'll probably be a couple more weeks yet before we let people come in. But as I said, when they're in their petting yard, we just have the yard closed, but you can still reach through our fence and pet any of these guys when they're out here. So they can interact with people, just not, we don't want kids in here with them, especially since they're babies. There's a temptation to pick them up, and that can be dangerous. These guys are getting into the size and the activity level where we have to, even us zookeepers have to be careful when we pick them up, that we've got a good grip on them before we pick them up.
Yeah. So what times do they get fed? Do they get their bottle?
So they get a bottle at 7:30 in the morning when our zookeepers first come in, and then they get a bottle at 2:30, and then a bottle at 6 o'clock in the evening. So what we've been doing with our 2:30 feeding is we bring them out here in the yard and let our guests kind of watch us feed them.
Oh, that's fun.
No, they're getting to the age where they're just basically like inhale their bottles. So it's you have to be here like right when we start, or you'll miss the whole thing. But then we usually have them out, usually from 2:30 to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll have these guys out again in the yard so people can see them as well. So.
How old is each goat?
So Caspian over there was born in February, beginning of February. Eustace was born on April 1st, and then Susan and Shasta were born on April 10th. So they're still pretty little. As I said, Caspian's the oldest. He's almost ready to move out of our goat nursery, and with the big goats full time.
How big will they get, each one?
So the mini La Manchas and the mini Nubians, they can be anywhere from 70 to 100 pounds. So we'll see about how big everybody gets. Every goat is different, so it can depend on the size of their parents as well. Eustace's name fits him very well. He is our resident troublemaker, if you can't tell. But usually, right after we get them out, so in the morning, we'll feed these guys at 7:30 and then move them over here. So they've got a couple hours to run around in a larger area. And usually, they're really, really active and bouncing all over the place. And then usually again at 2:30, right after they get their bottles, they're bouncing around. So you can get some really good pictures and videos if you come out while they're out. If you want some really good pictures of them, 2:30 is probably a good time to come out and get some good pictures and videos of them being little baby goats.
So they'll all play with each other?
They'll play with each other, they'll chase each other around. So we have these nice logs in here for kids to sit on, but also goat climbing things. So they'll be climbing and jumping and bouncing all over the place.
How much sunlight can they take before it gets to be too much?
Now, obviously with the Manchas, with their darker hair coats, we have to be a little bit more careful, make sure we're giving them some shade. But in the mornings, all of our goats like to lay out in the sun and kind of just basically sunbathe. So they really enjoy the sun as long as it doesn't get too warm. But once it gets up into the 80s and above, they'll usually look for some shade, especially in the afternoons. So they'll be most active in the morning on the really hot days, and then the afternoons they'll be in the shade. So all of our yards have some sort of shade structure in them to provide our animals with some natural shade. Our petting yard has shade as well, both for the animals and then as a kind of a safe haven for guests that want to get out of the hot sun as well. So if they're in here or if they're in their yard, they have shade.
What is the lifespan of a goat?
Once again, it depends on how you take care of them, but it can be anywhere from 10 to 15 years is a normal lifespan for a goat.
Kind of similar to a dog.
Very similar to a dog. So most hoof stocks, so animals with hooves, that's going to be generally the case for most of them. 10 to 15 years is a good age.
Yeah. And then someone else asked how many goats we have.
Right now, so we've basically doubled our goat herd. So right now we have 9 goats. So fun. We're actually running out of room.
So out of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are babies?
Four babies, and then we have our 3 pygmy boys, Peter, Edmund, and Tumnus.
And they're just a year old,
they're
right?
A year old. And then Floppet and Ike are our oldest goats. They're 6.
Okay. How do they do with these guys?
We're kind of doing what we call howdies with these guys yet. So they can see each other in the barn. We have a stall for these guys, but they can see and sniff each other through the fence. Caspian has been in with them a little bit, and just like with a lot of animals, the older ones, the ones that have been there before, like to say, "Hey, I'm boss." So Caspian gets picked on a little bit when he's in with the bigger guys, but we only do that during the day when we're here, so we can monitor, make sure everybody's being safe, and that way we can separate out if we need to, if they're getting a little too rough with each other, because they will headbutt each other. We'll stand up on their back legs and headbutt each other. And that's just basically trying to achieve rank in the herd. Is what that is. So natural behavior, but we still want to be careful.
Yeah.
Shasta, you just really love that cord. You're the troublemaker, aren't you?
How many breeds of goats, if you wouldn't mind repeating that?
Right now we have 4 different breeds here at the museum. So Floppet and Ike are our Nigerian dwarf goats. Peter, Edmund, and Tumnus are pygmy goats. Caspian and Eustace are La Manchas. And then Susan and Shasta are Nubians, the mini Nubians. So right now 4 different breeds. But there are many other breeds as well, but we have 4 breeds represented right now.
It's a nice variety here.
Yes. That's what we were kind of going for, just to give some variety, show just the different variations, even among our domesticated goats, and how different breeds can look and act, because there is a difference in personality, between goat breeds.
Yeah.
So La Manchas here they're good at climbing. They're very much explorers. The Nubians are very, as I said, like a dog, very cuddly, very friendly, like being around people. The Pygmies also love being around people as well. The Nigerian dwarves are good at getting in trouble. No, Caspian, you may not.
She'll keep her blue eyes, so that's her actual color. And then if they have
How many different animals do we have?
So here at the museum, we have goats and sheep. We have a zorse and a zonkey. We have camels. We have a donkey. We have alpacas. We have wallabies, coatis, and a whole different variety of chickens. We also, as I said, we have hedgehogs, a bearded dragon, which are used primarily for animal encounters as well. So, and coming later this year, hopefully by end of June, we'll actually have another animal to announce here at the museum as well.
That's exciting.
So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. End of June, we'll have another animal that we're going to announce.
Yeah.
So.
That's exciting.
It's very fun right here at the museum zoo. We're finally getting to add some more animals. Hopefully do some expansion here so we have some more animals, because we're such a hit and we have so many guests. We want to give guests more of an opportunity to spend some more time out here.
Yeah.
So.
And when you visit the Creation Museum, the petting zoo is included with your general admission, as are the botanical gardens. So you can come and see the exhibits inside the museum and then come out and meet all the animals in the petting zoo. Does anybody have any more questions about any of the animals? You can send those in the comments for Leanne. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Leanne, for showing us the new animals, and we hope you'll come visit. Thank you.